I'm Dr. John. This is your Maintenance Minute. We're talking about optimizing stock levels today as part of our discussion on the 32 storeroom processes and practices. This is a very interesting one because I don't expect an inventory level to stay the same. That is, we set up a component as, say a min of 2 and a maximum of 4, and 20 years later, that's still the way it is. In fact, a storeroom inventory ought to sort of ebb and flow as business changes, as practices change within the organization. We ought to pay attention to those. So at least once a year, maybe twice a year, we need to sit down as a community or as a committee of users, influencers, or stakeholders, I guess is the word, of people that use and benefit from the storeroom, and talk about what we're stocking and what level we're stocking. Because, we've got to maintain this sort of inventory value, if you will. So there's several different ways that are probably the common ways to optimize stock level. This is to make sure that we're stocking about the right part, pardon me, in the right quantity. Min-max is almost, we talk about min-max all the time, but I don't know that I've ever seen it used recently in the last 5 years. Again, I'm not out there with everybody, but I can't recall a client of mine that uses min-max. So we may think we do, but what we're really tracking is probably reorder point and reorder quantity. Let's face it, min-max is, that's almost designed to make sure that we're carrying the maximum, because we get down to a minimum, then we have a reorder quantity. A batch comes in that probably puts us at the max, if not a little over the max. So we got a little safety margin there, right? What we're most likely to have is this reorder point, or this trigger point that says, hey, the computer says, hey, you've told me to let you know when we reach this point. We've reached that point. I recommend you order X number of component as replacement. That's a reorder quantity. That's probably set up in your item master data, and then that purchase order goes out to the vendor that you've got identified in that item master data. So that's typically how it works. It's the reorder point and reorder quantity. What's really starting to take hold, and it's an old concept, an old phrase, and it's one that we're all familiar with if you've ever shopped at any of those sort of big box stores. This is economic order quantity. And when I talk about big box stores, if you go into some of these, Sam's or Costco or Big Lots or something, you tend to see that you get value for the amount that you buy. You buy a larger amount, the cost per serving essentially is less. And what we're after in economic order quantity, if you take the premise that if you order more of something, you tend to get a price discount that's represented by that green line. And so we get it's kind of a cost cut if we buy more of it, right? Hey, buy 10, but if you buy 12, we'll give it to you at a better rate. But don't forget, you've got the carrying cost. That's that brown line that you got to counter with, right? Because now you got to, if you went to Costco and bought a ton of paper towels and toilet paper, now you got to store that, right? You got to have a storeroom or somewhere to put all that product. So there's a carrying cost. Now, what economic order quantity does, if we can recall Algebra 2 from high school, we're combining these two curves, this sort of curve right here for cost, and then this curve right here this curve for carrying cost. And it turns into what's this third curve here, which is economic order quantity in purple. And right there in that little zone that I've identified, that's the sweet spot. That's if you buy this much, that is the right amount to buy. Now, what it doesn't tell you is when to actually buy it, right? That's, again, that reorder point. But that tells you what you get your best bang for your buck in terms of reorder quantity, right? That's the economic order quantity. That's kind of the best way. Now, you can only do that if you have a stable usage of the component. If I use 2 this month, and I use 200 next month, and I use 22 next month, and I use 150 the next month, I've got a very dynamic usage. That's not going to help me, right? This has to be a very stable use component. Maintenance department can help really, really well with this by really great preventive maintenance and really great planning and scheduling. The other way, and I literally just had a conversation about that this morning, is this 0-0, min of 0, max of 0, right? It's a part that I don't have on the shelf, but I have a part number 4. So when I need it, I can order it by the part number. This is extremely helpful for planners. And we have a company part number for it that has an item master information, tells us what the part specifications are, where we get it, who the vendor is. the cost, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't actually have to keep it on the shelf, but we have the part number for it. And I know you guys are very familiar with this. So these are 4 different ways to optimize your stock level. The real key is that we come together once a year, at least once a year. I'd recommend maybe twice. Let's take a look at not, everything in the store, but let's take a look at, 20% and say, are we stocking it in about the right levels? Can we make some movement based on, and there's other technology, of course, but make a movement on the order quantity and how much we're stocking and how much we order by using some of these very common tools. Look, I suggest that if you aren't doing these, you take a look at these. If you need some help, please give me a call. This is what we do. We're always happy to help. I'm Dr. John. This has been your Maintenance Minute.